Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. I'm excited to be here today with Bonita Joy Yoder. Bonita is known as the laughter lawyer, and she's a recovering attorney turned edutainer. She inspires audiences to embrace joy and find humor in work, relationships, and everyday life, regardless of the circumstances. Her speaking topics include humor in speaking, humor in business, and humor as well-being. With the help of her ventriloquist puppet friends, her mission is to make the world a brighter place by spreading moments of joy, one smile at a time. Welcome, Bonita Joy, to the Spotlight on Speaker show.
Thank you, Brett. Happy to be here.
All right, so recovering attorney. So how many years are we going back, Bonita Joy, to where you decided, I don't want to be an attorney any longer. I'd like to do something different.
Gosh, it's been over 10 years, 10, 15. I kind of phased out a little. I didn't just stop one day,
You know, you were multitasking different jobs at the same time, huh?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a job for a state government or a bank or something, you can quit and walk out. But I was self-employed in a solo law practice. And does that mean you are a liar? Oh, hi, everyone. This is Ruby. Hi, who's this? This
Hey,
is
Ruby.
Brett. That does not mean I'm a liar. We're talking about lawyer, not liar. What's the difference? Ruby, can you maybe just go over there and sit and listen for a while? I guess I can. Okay, but I might come back. All right. Never know.
So how long has Ruby been a companion of yours?
Maybe a dozen years.
Yeah.
I acquired her at a magician's convention where there was a woman there who made puppets. She was actually retiring and selling all of her puppets, and I wish I had gotten more. I pick them up wherever I can over the years,
All right, so you were an attorney. You decided that you wanted to do what you're doing now. So how long did that transition take? How long did that transition take? And if you had to go back, would you do anything differently than how you did it?
If I had to go back, I would have transitioned sooner. One day when I was a young lawyer, I was in divorce court and the judge was about ready to issue a ruling. And he said, I feel like I've made a good decision when I make both parties unhappy. So, I'm like, make both parties unhappy? I mean, couldn't he focus on trying to make them both a little happy instead of unhappy? I think that planted a seed for me because law has so much adversarialness. Sometimes there's people trying to get revenge or litigation, and something about trying to make people unhappy when they're already crying in a divorce a lot of times. I wanted to shift my focus, and now by focusing on humor and joy, which is my middle name, I'm more likely to see people laughing than crying.
So, in my mind, there are three primary types of speakers: keynote speakers, platform sellers, and people who are just using it for business building purposes, like an attorney or financial planner, or whatever, speaking to local groups. So, which of those arenas have you played in, and which do you prefer if it's more than one of those arenas?
I prefer the keynote. I spoke occasionally as an attorney for educational things, but I wasn't really thinking so much of myself as a speaker then.
Mhm.
And I may build a platform, but that's not really my emphasis at this moment in time. But the other thing, which you didn't mention, which is one of my favorite things to do, is MC. I like the MC, and not only that, my puppet friends love the MC because they get to come along and they, we can notice what's going on in the room. And I think there's one trying to come in there. They get by with saying anything. We sure do. And nobody blames me for what they say. She doesn't take responsibility. This is dog, DAWG. I represent dogs that get unfairly accused of biting people and lifting their legs on fire hydrants and things like that.
I'm not sure is dog safe to take anywhere?
Well, if lawyers are, because I'm a dog lawyer, I see. Anyway, but people like, and friends like dog like to come along when I MC, and you could make a reference to who has already presented, somebody who's going to be presenting, and just do, like one time I was on a stage with Robert Allen in Denver, and he wrote books on real estate. And he called me up with one of my puppet friends, and my little guy asked him, "Are you one of them there house whisperers?" And Robert Allen looked at him and he's like, "I'm gonna use that." But you've heard of a horse whisper, right? We played on that and said house whisper. That was an ad lib, but that's the kind of thing that can happen when MC. Just I love ad libbing. I love playing on the spontaneity of what happens in the room. I actually prefer ad libbing and improvising over a script.
Well, that's interesting. I've never talked to somebody on my program specifically about the whole emceeing realm. So, what makes for a good MC?
I gotta go. All right, dog. What makes for a good MC is somebody who's got energy, somebody who can keep the flow going, who it's a matter of keeping the flow going seamlessly. I mean, I've done like some nonprofit fundraisers and things, and I think if you have a little variety, like if you could do some magic or ventriloquism or juggling or anything like that, it also helps with emceeing because it kind of breaks it up and it gives something visual. I can also do magic tricks, but I focus on the ventriloquism mostly because it's much more unusual and I have so much fun and we get to say things. Yeah.
All right. So, your preferred outlet is as an MC. As a keynoter, when you go into a speaking engagement, what are you doing ahead of time to prep for any particular speaking engagement as a keynote presenter?
One of the things I do is really pay attention to bringing the energy down into my feet to be grounded because it's easy for me to go up into my head. I think that's easy for a lot of people, right? And that's why I have to be aware and kind of bring it down into my heart and down into my feet to stay grounded and breathe and just breathe. If there's time to sit alone in silence and kind of meditate, if you will, that's helpful too. But I also like to take a drink of water before I go on. So
So, when you're preparing for a speech for a corporation or something where you're going to go in and deliver a keynote, what are the steps that you're taking in regards to making sure that your message is as on target as possible for that given audience? Do you always use a canned presentation, or are you customizing based on the specific audience to any extent?
Well, I have certain things I like to talk about, but I will tailor for an audience. For example, there was a landscape company that brought me in, and the assistant HR person told me that the HR person that they had brought in, I had done some things, I don't know what, but people didn't trust her. The employees did not trust her, and she was actually let go so they could start over with a clean slate and bring in a new HR person. And she said they wanted something positive, a positivity. And in that situation, I talked about gratitude and humor. I mean, here's some of the things I like to talk about: is gratitude, humor, and purpose. And in that particular situation, I did sprinkle in a couple magic tricks. It was almost an hour presentation, and I ended with a trick. I did have puppets come in too, as a puppet talk about, well, what did she have to be grateful for? It's kind of a bag lady puppet, and so I did have the puppets come in along the way. But then I ended with a peering flower bush, because it was a landscape company, and I had talked about, planting the seeds with gratitude and different things to have a positive thing, and the idea of blooming, and ended with that. So that was definitely a tailored thing for that particular situation. And I try to find out in advance, what is the purpose, what's their intent, what's their goal, in having me in. And if I can, even if it's a message I often give, if I can kind of tailor a little bit, I like to do that.
So how do you measure as a keynote speaker the success of a particular talk?
Both internal and external. The internal is how I feel about it. I mean, I think most people have a sense, unless they have no self-worth or very little self-worth, I think most people have a sense of how something went. And then I'd like to get evaluations when I can, or some kind of feedback, because then that helps bring the two together to make it consistent, the internal and the external. I think oftentimes speakers are harder on themselves than other people are.
So you've been doing the keynoting for a while and the emceeing. As a keynote speaker, give me maybe your 3 best tips for an aspiring keynote speaker to be successful in that realm.
Well, first is practice. I mean, I've been a member of Toastmasters over 10 years, and some people think of that as, oh, it's an amateur thing, but I love the practice material, new material, and also humorous material, because I can get feedback there. So the practice and rehearse. Now, I do not use a script. I use bullet points. So whatever it is that's your style, some people write it all out, but have something just there visually, whether it's little bullet points on a 3x5 card or one word thing to help you remember a story. And the other is, of course, remember to make eye contact and connect with the audience, because it's so easy to, for people to forget that or look over the tops of the heads or whatever.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So I do want to dive into the whole area of humor and speaking a little bit more deeply in just a second. But before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Okay.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
And we are back with the Spotlight on Speaking show. I'm my guest, Bonita Joy Yoder. So, Bonita, why did you choose humor as your go-to topic for speaking? Because that's a polar opposite of what your vocation was in a sense before then.
Yeah, people think that's kind of weird sometimes. A lawyer, ventriloquist, right? I think it started, Brad, when I was 5 years old or so. I was at a family reunion on my mother's side, and my older cousin, Clinton Detweiler, who later became famous for making ventriloquist dummies, not for performing, but or figures, I guess. Let's be politically correct. Ventriloquist figures. He carried a wooden doll named Woody up to the front, put him on his lap. They started talking, people laughed, and I'm like, what's going on? What is that? And that stayed with me for years. That I think that was where it started. The idea of having people enjoy themselves when you talk. My father was a minister, so I was a PK, a preacher's kid. And I had to listen every Sunday to sermons, but I didn't see people laugh in the same way, right? So the idea of seeing people laugh in response was great.
All right, so a lot of people say be very careful about the use of humor in a speech because if you try to float something out there and it just totally bombs, then
Mhm.
you lose your rapport with your audience and your credibility and all that. So, how do you determine what humor is okay to use or not?
Sometimes it's trial and error. It's a matter of now, the founder of the National Speakers Association reportedly said, do you need to be funny when you speak? And he said, only if you want to make money. But it is sometimes you're not always going to hit it 100%. And like now, comedians will try their new material in the middle of a routine. So if it goes a little flat, they can still have their strong opener and closer. But I think it's good to have humor buddies or somebody to give you evaluation. Maybe if you have another speaker friend or a group of 4 or 5 speaker friends and you can work together and practice things and see how it lands for the other people, that could be helpful rather than just going out cold the first time, unless you have had people laugh at your stories all day long, and because some people are they just natural they story tell and people laugh and they know that's the response or people smile.
Right?
And but it if you're just beginning, it could take courage, this courage, taking a risk. And I have people say, I never thought about being funny. So that's the first step, is to make the decision, to make it conscious that you intend to bring more humor in.
All right, so let's get to my favorite question in my interviews, and that's okay. It's the bare your soul portion of the program, and I want you to tell me maybe something that happened during your speaking career that was kind of embarrassing at the time, maybe left a little red faced or whatever, but a valuable lesson was learned, and it would be something that you would highly advise other speakers not to do.
I will share with you something that happened shortly before I went into the stage. I was in a speaking contest. I sat down on a chair that had, would you believe it, a banana on it. I was wearing a pair of black slacks, and I sort of panicked because I think I had maybe a half hour or so before it was my turn. Fortunately, there was somebody else there, and she had come in from out of town and had a hotel room had come in the night before, and she said, I've got a pair of black slacks if you want the key to go up to my room and get them. She was a little smaller than I was, so they were a little tight, but it was better than walking up there with this white stuff all over the back of
Damn
my.
those bananas, they'll get you every time, man.
I know you hear stories of people slipping on a banana, but here I was sitting on it. But the moral of the story is, if it's an important engagement, take an extra change of clothes with you. You just never know. If you
Yeah, that's
spill
right.
something, or if you sit on something, or somebody throws up, I don't know.
All right, so you and I were talking before the show, Bonita Joy, about a humor journal or something that you have that could possibly help speakers out. So tell people a little bit more about that, where they can get it, and how they can get involved more in your world, should they so choose.
All right, Brett. Well, I have a humor journal, which is a gift. It has 10 humor prompts to help you notice the fun and funny in your everyday life. Because I suggest people look at what's happening. Like, what do their kids say that's funny, or their grandkids, or adults, their friends. And when they're talking, when are their friends laughing? And when their friends are telling stories, when are you laughing? It helps you kind of clarify your sense of humor if you're not quite sure, because there's so many different styles. And you can get this gift at joy.funandfunnier.com. That's joy.funandfunnier.com. Oh, hi. Who are you? Sammy. You know who I am. Yeah, I do, but may not. I'm going to run for president. You can't do that. I have the orange hair. You can't run for president. You're just a puppet. It won't be the first time or the last. Oh, now, Sammy. Can you go sit down and pay attention? Okay. Yeah. But these little fellows, they just come in.
All right, well, we'll make sure
So
the
I
URL
joined
to
up.
pick up the humor journal is, and then the prompts down in the show notes down below.
Okay.
And that's a specific spot to get your journal. Do you have another website that they should check out?
Well, I have bonitajoyyoder.com, and I'm working on another one, but right now the free gift would be at thejoy.funandfunnier.com.
All right, very good. All right, so any final words of wisdom for up and coming speakers, Bonita Joy?
If you haven't used humor or much humor in your speaking, I invite you to really make a decision to do that, because along with storytelling, humor is a way to connect. And there's so many talking heads now. We just had a few here. And there's so many on virtual shows and programs that humor is a way to set yourself apart. And I am finishing a manuscript on a book called Tickle Their Funny Bone. Use humor to polish your presentations. It's not available yet, but keep your eye out, because by the end of the year, it'll be on Amazon.
All right, very good. Well, Bonita Joy, I want to thank you so much for being my guest on this episode of the Spotlight on Speaking Show. I wish you the greatest of success in all that you do. And to all the listeners and viewers out there, thank you for joining us today. And may this year be your greatest year yet. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking Show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking Show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.